Hi everyone, Sunstrider here, and today I'm super excited to talk about Honkai Star Rail. For those of you who are new to the title, Honkai Star Rail is Hoyo's first turn-based action RPG that sets the adventure in galactic exploration. Before we jump into my impression, I'd like to tell you that I've never watched any tier list or beginner tips regarding this game, as I really want to immerse myself with a real first-time experience and happy that I did it. Initially, I'm kinda skeptical with Honkai Star Rail thanks to Hoyo's first decision to make a turn-based game, something that they have never created before. As you guys would have known, I mostly played Genshin Impact and was already used to the fast pace and mechanics. Now, to be presented something entirely different where I had to think and strategize? Don't get me wrong, I played Epic 7 and the other turn-based mobile games on my phone and I enjoyed it. It's just out of character for Hoyoverse and somehow I'm hugely affected by their decision. However, today's Honkai Star Rail release definitely changed my mind on how I perceive their decision in making a turn-based game. First time I got into Honkai Star Rail, I got that familiar feeling of the Hoyoverse game from their character and fell in love with Kafka. The voice acting was exceptional, the ambience is totally different, which is great, and the movement? I'm not sure if it's just me, but does anyone feel the way Dash works in this game is a bit too slow, and her running posture is a questionable one as well?
No.
A few minutes into the game, I finally got to experience their combat. In Honkai Star Rail, the game combines the element of adventure and turn-based mechanics by adding an advantage or weakness system, where if you hit an enemy with a certain element, you'll get advantage in the battle. If you have played the Persona title, then this mechanic isn't something new, but does bring some memories of the good old days. At first, there's not much difference between Honkai Star Rail and the other turn-based games in the market. There's a turn indicator, an attack that now has two options of normal attack and scale. Talking about scale, I think this is how Honkai Star Rail want to add depth to their game as players need to plan their skill usage. With each skill use decreased the skill energy bar, players need to be careful on how to expand theirs. Too early and you wish you had saved your skill before. Aside from those two, the game also introduced an ultimate attack. This can be done instantly regardless of a unit turn, and as far as I've used it, it can definitely turn the tide of the battle. Each character will have their own and depending on their role will have different functionality. Some do purely damage, some deal AoE, while some deal damage and remove buff. After you finally get a full control of your character, you'll see that there's a type and path system in the game. The path system in this game will mainly be used as a reference on choosing your Lycone and sending your units in an expedition-like feature. In any other game, you all can think of this Lycone as an artifact, emblem, or core. Each character with specific path can only use the corresponding Lycone. Type itself, on the other hand, will be the bread and butter in this game as it will determine how you're going to enjoy the fight. Remember when I said the game introduced a weakness system? Well, type and element weakness will be your main key thing in order to gain the upper hand in the game by depleting the enemy's toughness bar effectively. There's a 6 types in Honkai Star Rail where enemies can have up to 3 type weakness and you can bring 4 types. So make sure every character that you bring does taken into account. In the first few hours of the game, you'll be guided by the game as you somehow always have the advantage type to fight the enemy. However, later on in the game, or it was just my bad luck, you might need to check the enemy's type in order for you to gain advantage, because if you don't, you're not going to enjoy a tiny bit of the fight, especially fighting the boss one. To me, this toughness bar as well as the type systems feels like a double-edged sword where in some cases, triggering an advantage attack does elevate the fight experience and even help in finishing the fight quickly. However, when you fail to take advantage of this mechanic, then the fight seems to take longer as the damage dealt from our characters doesn't seem to be hurting the enemy. After I leveled up my character to level 20, the fight does improve a lot on my side where affecting small enemies during side quests feel easy enough to do. As long as you can take advantage of the type system, then you're guaranteed an easy victory. The problem, however, still persists for tough enemies. I tried to fight strong enemies numerous times, and while it's relatively easy to break their toughness bar, depleting their health takes time and might serve as a problem for new players to the turn-based genre. I think I really need to understand that this is a turn-based game, and seeing an enemy that's hard to get over with is where the joy comes from for this genre. Well, people might argue to bring a lot of DPS to win this specific battle, which is true, but the risk is bigger since I don't have support with me. Harder enemy to deal with on top of thinking and strategizing your way to victory is the kind of fun that Honkai Star Rail wants to present to its players, and new players to the genre need to take note of this. Other small details that might be a new take from the turn-based genre is the ability to use technique during exploration to heal or buff your character. Each character has a different technique that will bring a different impact to the game. For example, Mark 7 technique is to shoot an arrow to the enemy during exploration that, if it's the type advantage, will break the enemy and freeze them during the fight. So you might want to do a bit of research in building your team later on to take into the fight. Talking about upgrades, leveling is very obvious and key element to character growth. The other thing that players need to know is the existence of Traces and Eidolon. For Epic 7 players, Traces is the same as your Awakening, where you'll need a certain items to get a stats upgrade. Eidolon, on the other hand, is equal to a Constellation as in Genshin Impact. By default, you'll be able to unlock your main character first Eidolon for free just by following the story. Relics, on the other hand, is similar to artifacts that gives bonus stats based on the number that you equip on a character. Content-wise, 8 hours into the game, with story taken into account, you'll be introduced to Simulated Universe and Calyx.
You what?
As alien as they might sound to you veteran or new players alike, try to see Calyx as the ley line deposit, but in this game, the more you challenge yourself, the better the reward will be. Simulated Universe? The way I see it, it's similar to that dungeon where you'll be rewarded once you complete it, but this time, there's a story element behind it and you're the test subject. I think one of the biggest pieces of information for players right now is whether or not this game requires farming to obtain resources. In my 8 hours of gameplay, the only content that can be farmed multiple times is the Calyx that provides leveling up resources and currency. You can farm this Calyx multiple times, but with a catch. In Honkai Star Rail, there is Trailblazer currency that will be consumed each time you clear a Calyx instances. Questing? Yes, questing, the pinnacle of modern RPG games. I'm happy to say that questing is still available in this game but presented in a different way. If we normally have to talk to a certain someone or get a certain item, questing in Honkai Star Rail is done in a very futuristic way, where you can get a quest sent to your phone. I mean, it's a game with an intergalactic exploration setting, so what do you expect? With years of experience in creating a successful game title, I think HoYoverse is trying to expand their portfolio from action RPG to a turn-based game. I've played the game for around 8 hours and think it's safe to say that the game does provide a new experience, especially if you're new to the genre and looking for a fresh new game to play. As a Genshin player, I guess unconsciously I still bring my action RPG game mentality where every enemy needs to be subdued quickly or seeing that burst attack. But once I'm able to slow things down and objectively see Honkai Star Rail genre, I guess I'm able to enjoy the turn-based more and completely learn everything from scratch. On top of that, the addition of Honkai Star Rail does bring fresh new content for content creators like me who need topics to engage their audience. While the game does enhance some earlier turn-based games with their own take, I personally think that they might need to tone down the toughness on bigger enemies. Again, it might come down to everyone's liking, but considering there's a new player, I guess it would be a nice gesture to create a welcoming vibe to all players. What do you guys think? Do you guys think Honkai Star Rail hit all the marks for you? Or do you prefer a fast-paced action RPG like me? Comment below and let's discuss.